Hey guys, this is Greg Denning, and you are in the School of Awesome Sauce, where I share with you amazing stories and strategies to help you live an extraordinary life. All right, guys, so excited today to share this awesome lesson. Have you ever been out orienteering? You've been out in the mountains or the wilderness, had to use a compass and a map and try to find your way around. And there's been a bunch of times that I've been out in the wilderness and lost. I remember one time as a kid, we were went out hunting with my uncles, and I got turned around and lost up there. And in fact, the whole group ended up getting lost, and we had to just kind of navigate and find our way back. And I just remember the horrible feeling of being lost, of not knowing where we were and not knowing where we needed to go. And there's been times like that. But now I actually kind of like getting lost. That's one of my favorite things. Like, drop me off in a city, I don't know where I am and where I'm going, and just have this epic experience and get out in the wilderness and try to survive and find your way out. And I love that sense of adventure because I've learned how to navigate, how to find my way and how to get things done, right? And there's two things you need to know if you want to get somewhere. And number one, you've got to know where you are. And number two, you've got to know where you're going. And it turns out that those are the same two truths for life. That if we really want to live an extraordinary life, we have to know where we want to go, and we have to know really clearly exactly where we are. And in my experience, very few people are really clear about either of these. It's super interesting, you guys. I meet people all the time, and I love to talk about them. I'll even have these awkward conversations in the grocery store line or the elevator or anywhere. Just like, I love just to turn to people. Hi, I'm Greg. What's your life dream? Where are you going? What are you doing? And I just go right for it. And I love to have meaningful conversations with anyone, anywhere, at any time. And I find out that a lot of people just don't know. And when I'm asking, they're like, I don't know. What's my life dream? I guess to retire someday. I remember one gentleman, that was his answer. As I pushed, like, come on, give me something. He's like, I don't know, to retire someday? Right? He really didn't know where he wanted to go. And by where you want to go, I'm talking about like big dreams and goals, who you want to become and how you want to do your life. And where you are, it's interesting that like when I'm doing my coaching, that's one of the very first things we do is like, okay, let's get really crystal clear about where you're at right now. And most of us don't take the time to do that, right? It can be really uncomfortable, and we get busy. I understand this. We get busy. We get going with life. We're just cruising along, and we kind of get in this autopilot mode where we're just drifting, right? We're just going through the motions, making things happen, and very rarely do we intentionally make the time and effort to stop and say, okay, wait, hold on a minute. Where am I? Like, exactly. I'm going to track here. I'm going to track what I'm eating. I'm going to track my activities. I'm going to track my sleeping. I'm going to track how much time I'm using on devices and where all of my time is going. I'm going to track where my money's going, how it's coming in. Right? We get really intentional about all of those things, and then we get a crystal clear picture of where we at in our holistically, in our whole life, and where we want to go. But very few people do that. And we've got to, man, if we want to live an extraordinary life, you want to live an epic life on your terms. And I guess maybe we got to start there for a second. It's like, I want you to know this is real. Like, you're knowing, if you've listened to some of these podcast episodes, you know where I came from. I was in a broken home, out on my own early, struggling, ignorant, shy, timid, depressed, discouraged, hopeless. Very little skills, very little knowledge. I guess I'm still there. Very little skills, very little knowledge. But if I can go from where I was to where I am and to where I'm going in the future, if I can do it, then anyone can do it. And I want to assure you, no matter what your circumstances are right now, no matter what you're facing, you can do this. You can live life on your terms. You have way more power than you think you do, and more opportunities than you can currently see. We literally can write our own tickets. I believe that. I've seen people come from the worst circumstances and conditions and build a life they love. It is totally possible. Even if you're facing some crazy hard stuff right now, this is doable. So please believe that. All right, so where to? We got to ask some big questions, right? Where do you want to go? And that's the big one. That's the fun one. And so start asking yourself. Let yourself dream. You guys, I want to reemphasize here, like, even if your life is good, it's okay to want more. It's okay to keep growing and have a little fire in your belly of ambition, right? Of wanting to improve and grow and make yourself better, make your life better, and help other people make their lives better. It's perfectly okay to want that and to have this desire for growth. In fact, we're literally hardwired for it. If you study the brain research that's going on right now, you can see inside the mind and track this, like, we get new neural connections every time we grow, we achieve. That's why you feel good when you check stuff off your to-do list. You're getting a little hit of dopamine there, and it just feels good to do things. And it actually, you get hit of dopamine just dreaming about doing things and thinking about the excitement of accomplishing something and achieving things. We're literally hardwired to grow and improve. And I believe there's a great poem by Harry Kemp, and on the end it says, "Chief of all thy wondrous works, supreme of all thy plan, thou hast placed an upward reach into the heart of man." And we have that upward reach. I really do. I meet people all over the world, and they just have this longing, this desire to be better, to be their best selves, to reach for their potential, to see what they can achieve and accomplish and do. And I hope you have that fire, and I hope you feed that fire. I hope you fuel it. Be excited. Let yourself dream and get out there. So, all right. So if we're going to head somewhere, where do you want to go in life? There's three elements, I think, here that we're going to talk about today. Number one, you have to ask the right questions. Number two, you have to give the right answers. And number three, you have to take the right actions. So right questions, right answers, and right actions. Now, I want to point out right away, there's not just one way. So when I say right, it's not just one way. There clearly are some wrong ways. I think we'd all agree on that. There are clearly some wrong ways to do life. But there's also some right ways, but that doesn't mean just one way. There are many really good ways to do life and many really great ambitions. And there will be people who are drawn and driven to do work to protect the planet, to help animals, to do humanitarian efforts at the very lowest levels where people are starving, and humanitarian efforts all the way up to personal development and helping people achieve greater heights in their businesses and their lives. And I mean, it's across the full spectrum, right? There's so many good ways to do life, to be involved in family and philanthropy and in business and community and leadership. I mean, there's just so many good ways to do life. But I really want to point this out, there are some common denominators, my friends. There are definitely some common denominators of what works and what doesn't, and we can find those. But most people think it's a problem of, having the right answers. If I had the right answers, if I knew, what I'm supposed to do, then everything would be all right. But I want to back up and say it's actually having the right questions comes first. Because too many of us end up asking the wrong questions. And if we start with the wrong question, we're never going to get to the right answer. Let that one sink in. Think about that for a little bit. If we're starting with the wrong question, we're never going to get to the right answer. And a great way to demonstrate that is with a trial or a challenge or a struggle, an obstacle that's in your way. Very often we want to think, why me? Why is this happening? And why is this happening to me? Why can't we just avoid this? Why can't we just how can I just get away from this? Right? And we're asking this why question in that context, and you see how that's kind of a disempowering question, where it's not empowering us to be proactive. It's kind of throwing a pity party, and it pushes us into what I call victimville, right? Where you play the victim. Oh, why me? Why is this happening to me? And we start moaning and complaining and whining and crying and throwing a pity party. And even if it is unjust and even if it is miserable, that doesn't help us solve the problem. And so the better questions is, if we were together, I'd ask you, what's the better question? What are the things we should be asking ourselves when we're facing an obstacle? And some of the potential questions are like, okay, what can I learn from this? What is this situation asking of me? Like what's being required of me right now? What opportunities are there? How can I get through this well? How can I learn from this? How can I grow from this? How can I improve this? How can I prevent this from happening again? Like, how can this make me a better person? Right? Where can I take action to make a difference in this situation? right? And see how those empower us. And we ask the right questions, like, yeah, this is great. And let me give some context for other situations. Instead of asking, why doesn't my spouse change? Why don't they do what I think they should do? Right? When is my spouse going to do that? When are my kids going to stop doing that? Or when are they going to start doing that? When is my boss going to do this, or the government that? We take those questions and we put them on other people, again, putting ourselves in the place of a victim, instead of, what can I do to improve my marriage, even if my spouse doesn't? See that? I'm taking full accountability and responsibility, and actually, in that case, I totally can. Do you guys know it's possible? You can literally improve your marriage just by improving yourself, even if your spouse doesn't, because it brings the tide. Personal development brings the tide. It lifts all boats, and it helps every area of your life. So it's so powerful and so important. So we can literally bring the tide. And those are the kind of questions we need to ask. What can I do? What can I learn? How can I improve? And it's empowering. So then the second part is, first part is ask the right questions. And I invite you to spend some time asking the right questions. If you're facing a situation or a challenge, you want to level up your life, you want to grow, you want to live a great story, what are the questions you need to be asking yourself? Now the second part is to give the right answers. And this can be tricky and challenging, but it's actually fun. Because like, okay, wait a minute, how do I get the right answers? Are there right answers? And if so, how do I find them? How do I give the right answers and make sure my thinking is clear here? Because there's some, even with the right questions, there's still some broken thinking sometimes. We give answers that aren't quite helping us, where we kind of get, it's easy to slip into a place where we get a little bit deceived. We deceive ourselves, or we lie to ourselves, and we get it's called being neurotic, right? You get this in neurotic space where it really doesn't line up. Your thinking just doesn't line up with real answers that are going to help us. And so we get into some of these behaviors that are like self-sabotage, and we give the wrong answers. So I'm going to give one suggestion here. Two, actually. Number one, to give the right answers, they have to align with your values and your desired outcome. If you're answering this question, does it align with your values, your principles, like your desired outcome? Does it fit? And then number two, I love this one, is like study the lives of great men and women. I've been reading voraciously. Generally, I average about a book a week. And I've been reading for over 2 decades, just devouring it and listening to podcasts and audios and trainings and seminars, and paying tens of thousands of dollars for training and meeting people and interviewing people all around the world. I'm looking for the best way to be successful in every area of life, how to really get it done, be happy, and to achieve and just like get success in the areas that matter most in life, right? In every important area of life. And getting the right answers, often you look at these lives, you look at the lives of great men and women, and you think, okay, what did they do? What was their thinking? What were their habits? And with their whole life played out. And they're not like guessing, like, oh, maybe you should do that or try this. But you study the lives of great men and women who really have achieved incredible things and were genuinely good people too. You study their lives and say, what were they thinking? What were they doing? What decisions did they make? What habits do they have? What routines or rituals did they practice? And that's where we start getting really great answers. Really great answers. And so I love learning from people and looking at the best thinkers and leaders of all time. And when I start answering a question, I say, well, can I back that up? Can I back that up with evidence or proof from the lives of my heroes? And if I can, and I can see that they're living by these common denominators of success, right? Because some people are like, well, look, what works for one person may not work for another person. And that's true. But can you find someone who is truly great and truly good, who's like you, and lived by these principles and practices, right? And if we can see that and prove it again and again, and not just like some random chance, but like really dig in and make it happen, then we can get it. So you got to have the right questions, the right answers, and then take the right actions. You got to take the right actions and set up habits and systems, routines and rituals in our lives. And I'm going to do some podcasts just on my morning rituals that have made the massive difference in my life. I've been doing it for over 22 years. And evening rituals and family rituals and these routines that we get into and habits we set up. We set up these systems, you guys, that just make living life so much easier. So let's dig a little bit deeper here, but I want to share, look, this idea. You cannot get to where you are going if you do not know where you need to be. You cannot get to where you're going if you do not know where you need to be. We got to get those out. So I'm actually going to give you some questions to consider. I invite you to write these down, ponder on them, share your answers with people you love and trust, share them with me. But spend some time thinking and writing about these things. And I'm just going to throw out some questions here that are examples of the right questions. And these are big picture philosophical questions. What is my life mission? What brings me true joy? What do I really want to accomplish? What is my definition of success, and how am I going to achieve it? That's a big one. Have you ever clearly defined success for yourself? That thing's massive. I often think a lot of people miss the mark. They end up climbing their ladders up against the wrong wall, or they're barking up the wrong tree. They're going somewhere they really don't want to go because they never clearly defined success. What am I going to use this day for? Right? What am I going to use today for? What do I have the capacity to do well? What are my desires? What are my talents? What needs to change in the world? Oh, I love that one. What needs to change in the world? How can I contribute to that change? What is my why, right? My drive. What's the reason I do what I do? And then that's the next question tied to that is, why do I do what I do? Right? Love that question. I love that question. I remember years ago, we were driving from the United States down to Costa Rica and moved there first time. This was our very first rodeo leaving the U.S. to go live abroad with our family. And we were listening to this great audio program by Wayne Dyer. And he was asking this question. He's like, literally, ask yourself everything. Go through every part of your life and ask yourself why you do what you do. Even down to things like, why do you eat 3 times a day? Why is it you eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner? Like, why have you been conditioned to that? And if you didn't know about that, if you didn't know you were, quote, supposed to eat 3 times a day, when would you eat? Why do you sleep when you sleep, or how long you sleep? Why do you live where you live? If you could pull yourself completely off the planet and you're up in space looking back at the earth and you could see the whole thing, where would you choose to live and why? Right? And just boom, like this mind explosion, right? Of all these awesome, great questions. Like literally ask yourself, why do you do what you do? And so often we're going to find that we end up picking up things from our social surroundings, our social conditioning, our family, friends, school experiences, work experience, whatever. We end up doing these things. And some of them you're going to say, excuse me, some of them you're going to evaluate and be like, yeah, I want that in part of my life. Like, I'm going to look at that. I'm going to really understand it, evaluate it. And I'm like, yep, I do that because I learned it from my grandpa and I think it's a great thing and I'm going to hold on to it. But we have to be honest enough to say, man, you know what? I do that because I picked it up from my dad and I don't want to do that anymore. Or I learned that from a teacher, or I just kind of became an automatic default thing. Why do I do that? And I don't like that anymore. I'm done doing it. And you can change. You can remove that stuff from your life. So we literally have the power, you guys, to bring in or remove anything from our life, including our personalities. We can alter our personalities. If there's parts of your personality you don't like, or other personality types that would be more empowering and helpful for you and your mission in your life, you can alter that. You literally can. You can transform your personality. I've done it with myself and I've helped others do it. This stuff is so awesome. I love it. So why do you do what you do? Why go down that road? Right? Going on with the questions here. Why are you going down that path? What story do I want to live? And here's an interesting question that I think is super powerful. What will make me truly unhappy? Right? I love that one. It's a flip on what we most often ask. What will make me happy? We think about that, and that's an important question. But what will make you truly unhappy? And when you and I get really crystal clear about what would truly make us unhappy, woo! We get a lot of clarification on changes we need to make and things we need to do. What is standing in my way of becoming the person I want to be? I know I'm just fire hose drilling these questions at you, but you capture them, pause this, capture these questions, spend time on them, like seriously. And some of you are like, oh yeah, that's nice, and go on with it. And others will take the time, make the effort to write them down and write your responses. Like do some journal writing on this and really get clear. Because without clarity, we're not moving forward. We can't. If you don't have clarity, you're not going to set goals. If you don't have goals, you don't have progress. Who do I want to become? What are the most important qualities I need to acquire? What are the most important accomplishments in life? What must I do to earn a phenomenal education? What must I do to become an incredible human being? Whoa, I love that, right? So we can get those great questions, think about them ourselves, write them down, study the lives of great men and women, talk to your spouse, talk to your mentors and coaches. Make sure you have a mentor and a coach all the time. Get in a coaching program, invest in yourself. It's worth it. Whether you do it with me or you do it with someone else, make sure you're getting some coaching and mentoring. Albert Gray said, if you do not deliberately form good habits, then you will automatically form bad ones. And that's what happens, you guys, if we are not really deliberate and intentional about setting things up the right way. And Socrates said, the unexamined life is not worth living. And I just think he meant, look, if you're not going to examine yourself, you're not going to spend time thinking about who you want to become and where you're at, where you're going, then you're just going to kind of drift through life and you're not going to end up where you want to be. So make it time to examine your lives, my friends. See how you're doing in what I call the Fantastic Five, which is physical, mental, spiritual, emotional, and social. You can add financial to that, so it'd be 6. But look at those important areas of life. Get a clear examination of how you're doing. And don't beat yourself up. Be patient with yourself. When you examine that, you get really clear about, okay, what condition am I in physically? How am I doing emotionally? Am I too sensitive, even hypersensitive? How do I respond to other people and situations? How am I doing mentally? Am I really challenging myself in my mind, learning languages and memorizing and wrestling with problems and solutions? And then after that, how do you feel about your results? Right? And don't allow your results, if you're sucking it up, and I would dare say, I'm confident enough to say we all need to improve in each of those areas of life, and probably most of us need to really improve in a couple areas. And don't let that lower your self-esteem. It's not tied to your self-worth. And don't let it prevent your progress. You don't like that scene from Tangled. I'm a despicable human being. Right? We beat ourselves up. Don't do that. Be patient with yourself. But be honest too. Be like, you know what? Actually, I'm really sucking it up right now in social. I'm not building relationships. I'm not winning friends. And I'm not influencing people. I need to make some serious changes, right? And be willing to be completely honest about that and make it happen. And then if you're willing to do that, it's going to make a huge difference. It's going to make a gigantic difference in your life, right? To get clear, be honest, don't beat yourself up, and then create a roadmap. And this is probably the most important part. If you'll just sit down and create a roadmap. When I'm mentoring and coaching, I always invite people to get really clear. Set some big dumb goals, right? I've shared that. They're demanding. The acronym for dumb is demanding, unrealistic, meaningful, and bold. And then set some dumb goals and then some SMART goals. The acronym for SMART is specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. And then get going. Get that vision of what you want and just start taking action with incremental goals until you achieve them. And I guess let me drive this home, right? A little heart to heart here. And I'm just kind of feeling this. Look, my greatest concern, my biggest fear for people is that too many people don't make the time and effort to plan a great life and then execute that plan. I want to repeat that. My fear is that too many people don't make the time and effort to plan a great life and then execute the plan. And instead, most people merely, and I'm quoting someone, they hollow out their own pit of mediocrity, close quote. They just make this little space and they settle into their little pit and they stay there. And that's heart-wrenching, because the greatest tragedy in the world is when a human being like you and me fails to reach their full potential. So my friends, you greatly cheat yourself if you only give a few minutes and a few shallow thoughts to your life plan. Right? We can really make it happen. So get clear on your plan, get excited about it. Go after, write it out, get it on your wall. I've got it up all over my wall. I got a vision board. I got affirmations. I have trainings on all those things, how to do it. Get those courses so you can do them well. And then I get excited about this stuff, and then make sure, here's the key. We'll wrap up with this, right? Make sure, please make sure, every day you do at least one thing that moves you in the direction of your dreams. Every day do at least one thing that moves you in the direction of your dreams, and it will add up, and it'll make a huge difference. So remember, my friends, awesome is always an option. Reach upward. Hey everybody, thanks so much for listening to this episode. I hope you got a lot of value out of it and found some things that you can apply to your life right away. Hey, I'm being totally sincere when I say I live to help you live your extraordinary life. So I hope you'll reach out to me if you have any questions, or let me know how I can help you in any important area of your life. And in fact, this podcast is brought to you by the School of Awesome Sauce monthly coaching program. Take advantage of that. Get in there. It's the best way to get a breakthrough to the next level so you can level up your health, your spirituality, your emotions, your mind, your relationships, your finances, business, every part of your life. Just get in there where you have a coach and a mentor. You have a supportive community to make things happen. So jump in there, take advantage of this, try it out, get in there with us, and level up your life. See you on the inside. Reach upward.